in the same way that Hussein alayhi salam achieved the potential that no man on this planet ever achieved and will ever achieve. And you know that everybody was telling him to desist from his way. Even his close companions, even those dear to him. But he attained that because he knew when he was told, why are you going towards Kufa when you know you'll be killed and you know the path is very dangerous? And he said that I know from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see me there, wants to see me killed. This is why Hussein became who he was. And if you and if me, we want to have some identity associated with Hussein, we take the same path Hussein took. And why? Because he knew that answer. He knew where Allah wanted to see him. He wasn't concerned about that guy who has all those titles behind his name, how he was going to think. He wasn't concerned about politically how he would be in the eyes of people. Because he knows, Hussein knew that they didn't create Hussein. They didn't designate a role for Hussein. Allah did. So he returned back to his essence, back to his purity, back to sublime humanness. That's what Hussein was. And that's what Hussein isn't for you and me. You say Hussein is for Shia, you have abused Hussein alayhi salam. Because Hussein was sublime humanness, and everybody, whether Muslim, non-Muslim, Shia, non-Shia, they all have this. Everybody has this. Everybody has this innate identity which is the human identity. And everybody has a lingering identity. Like the identity when I look inside myself, I see millions of people and millions of thoughts. Millions of achievements, successes, conflicts. And this lingering identity takes me away from my innate identity, the humanness that I have. And that is what? That is your purpose, your role as a unique creation of your Lord. That is who you are. It doesn't mean that you have to go and become a abid. But you should know what is expected from you. If everybody sits to take time out in his very busy life, but to take time out to question, to sit, to look inside here, to ask that I say I believe in a soul, but do I ever pay any attention to it? I say I believe in a heart because Quran talks about the heart. Do I ever believe in it? Or do I study the physical heart more than I've ever paid attention to the real heart? So this lingering identity, what happens then? We have to firstly know what it is. What is our fake identity for us? For example, when you stand in salah, how many thoughts come to your mind? This is what your lingering identity is. This is what your fake identity is. But let's not leave that for salah. Let's come away from salah and seek that trueness. Everybody who cares for the mission of Hussein alayhi salam, everybody who cares for the mission of Hussein, everybody who respects Hussein alayhi salam for what he did, will know that they are responsible to carry on his mission. And his mission was only one. He wanted to bring reform from falsehood to truth. If we see today with the eyes of falsehood, because we have misconceptions within our own beings, we'll see everything incorrectly around us. You won't understand your friends, you won't understand your parents, you won't even understand your university lecturer, even though you've taken down millions of notes when he's speaking. Just retaining information. This is a knowledge which is good, but know how to do it. It's know about what you do. That's not the thing that puts us into problems. It's about knowing, is this who we are or not? So everybody can do it. Doesn't matter how busy a life you have. Doesn't matter how many exams you have to take. You all are meant for this. So that's that one identity which we need to strive, and we will develop it. Now let's see how. One of the things, to sit down, to know that there's times that we have to seek for ourselves to reach this. Otherwise we're faking our whole life is a fake. Despite all these titles you have, it's a fake. Tomorrow when you enter down there, forget even tomorrow when you enter, when you see people go against you, those people who love you, they go against you, you think to yourself, well, what's the point of my titles? Life is like this. You'll find out, and you probably know a lot about it. Anyway, I don't need to explain. But how to start? Alright, one story. You know the Ford company, yeah? Very successful. Now if you look at the Ford company, it owns majority of the cars. Jaguar, yeah? A lot of them, it owns a lot of them. And it's very successful. And it has been for some time now. And it's growing. But let's look at one of the things that happened. Henry Ford was determined to make this successful. So he wanted to know a little bit about reform. He wanted to reform his business. Yeah, like Imam Hussein says that he wanted to reform humanity or his ummah. Similarly, Henry Ford wanted to reform his business. Everybody wants to reform, no matter what you do. You want to reform because you don't want uncleanliness, you don't want obstacles in what you do, because you want to achieve perfection in what you do. And this is what the mu'min needs. So Henry Ford, he had this quality in him. He was a wise man as well, obviously. He wanted to be successful in the way he was running his business. So what he does, he hires out an efficiency expert, simply and purely for the reason to come inside his business, into his plant, and go around to monitor every section, department of that plant, asking him that, look, he says to him, look, go around everywhere and see exactly which department needs work done to be able to reform it. He tells it, look, you go around and find out different workers, just monitor how they work and what they do. Okay? And then I want you to report back to me to tell me which are the inefficient workers and laborers of mine, so that I can get rid of them, and obviously my funds could go into something which would make the business progress and develop further. So this guy, he goes with his clipboard, and he makes a thorough check into all departments of the plant. And he goes there to find out all the non-productive sectors of the plant. When he goes, he looks at one of the administrators, and he says that this is something wrong in this. So he's got a point. Finishes his rounds, everything is done, he goes back to Henry Ford, and he says, look, I went around, looked around everywhere, and I found one thing. He says, you know, what's that? He says, I found one person, one of the laborers, one of the administrators you had. Every time I walked past the office, the man would just be sitting, his feet on the table, and he'd just be sitting. And this would happen every time I walk around. This is all he'd be doing. The efficiency experts like to Henry Ford, he's like, you know what, I think definitely you should fire this guy. So Henry Ford looks back and he says to him, he says, I can't fire him, man. It's like, why? It's like, because I hired the guy to think. So you know what you have to do. This is in a car plant, manufacturing business. When do we manufacture our humanness? When we become a corpse. You've seen dead corpses already, you've worked on dead corpses, some of you. So non-believers are doing this for money. Let's do something for maybe to get closer to Allah. Then look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What was his view on this? If you look at Dua Arafah, wasn't he the one who asked this question? He says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Arafah, he says, Ya Rabb, ma ana wa ma khatari. Ya Allah,